Hello everybody and welcome to a short and a quick video when it comes to talking about the plus yardage tables that we do use in our guides. And also, the plus yardage table has become a bigger part of the game, or at least my game, and the way that we're doing guides than what it was just 6 months ago. And the reason we are using plus yardage table is in scenarios where we cannot use a regular yardage table. And why can't you use regular yardage tables every time? It's because not every hole is linear. When we use yardage tables, it is important that there is a linear way towards the hole. Like we play straightforward with the drive and then the second shot as well straightforward. If that's not the case, we will find ourselves lost, as if we play straightforward then to the right or to the left, we will obviously have a different result because we don't really know if we're a little bit more left on the fairway or a little bit more right on the fairway. And if we then play a linear way on that specific hole, or like linear way on a linear hole, then we will find ourselves, with no problem if we are a little bit more left or a little bit more right when it comes to on the fairway. And that's why, or like, then it's when the plus yardage comes in play. And you have probably seen us play with plus yardage when it comes to short irons, long irons, and wood club. And yes, you can play with all because it all, again, works basically the same as yardage. Just give you a quick reference once again. When we do play with regular yardage notes with short irons, we do separate every yardage with 2%. So let's, for the sake of the example, if you play a drive to 350 yards, and we then equal that as to be 50% slider. If we then go to 351 yards, which is 1 yard longer, then we play 48% slider with a short iron. And that's the same with a long iron, we play 48% slider, but when we do play with a wood club, we play it with a system that is called 2-3-2-3, which means that we play 2% for 1 yard and the next yard is 3%, etc. And that is the same with plus yardage, because if you do have a plus yardage that is +1, and then you have a plus yardage that is +2, that is a difference of 1 yard, which once again equals, with a short iron or a long iron for an example, 2% for that specific yard. So let's take a look at the shot here that we did play in the recent tournament, where we do play with the B52 level 8. You can see here now that the method that I'm using in this situation is that I'm going to use the plus yardage that I do have on my club once I've set up the shot in the way that I do want to. So now I'm done, and I see it says +6. Okay, the +6 in that case is going to then be equal a specific slider percentage. Obviously, we do have the elevation as well that we can't forget, but most especially the plus yardage here, when we talk about it, is just going to be related to a slider percentage, just to make it as easy as possible to follow. You can see here that we did adjust away from +6. Does that matter? No, it does not matter at all, because it is the plus yardage that you do have when you find your spot. I do adjust, and I hit the rough, and I just barely missed. And now, again, for the sake of the example, let's pretend that we did drop that one, which would mean that the +6% would be equal, once again, a slider, and it would equal, in that case, a drop, which means that we do have a base. And that base is something then that we can build on. So for those of you that are watching this one here now, maybe thinking, okay, if I would be playing that shot, for the sake of the example, once again, that from +6, we play it, we actually can take up that table. From +6, we play 77% slider. Okay, so if we do have a plus yardage that is higher, it means that we have a shorter drive, and it means then that we're going to have to play more. So if we then have a +9 when we have set up our target, we play it then 83% slider instead. But, and also, that's the same if we would be at +2, for an example, then we play it at 69% slider instead of the 77. So in this case, it is very important that when you do build a plus yardage table, because you can build that yourself, or when we build a plus yardage table, is that we do want to have a base drop. Like when we do have a drop on any hole, basically, we're looking at the specific references that we can use ourselves with. which is regular yardage, it is rings from min, or it is some certain plus yardage table with, you know, it could be a plus yardage check in the rough, it could be a plus yardage check by the pin, or any type of reference. But the plus yardage there is still, in the end, going to equal the same thing that I did explain in the beginning, which is 1 plus yardage is equal to percent with the B52 and with with the long iron and the short iron. But when it is a wood club, for an example, it is 2323 in terms of percentage of the slider. So this is one way of using a plus yardage table when we're using a plus yardage from our aiming point. Once we're done finding a landing spot and the aiming point, then we have the plus yardage that then equals a specific slider percentage. But I'm gonna show you another way as well that is becoming more common in our guides, which is when we do a pin check, because again, it works the same, just a different way of looking at it. So we're gonna take a look at that now. So let us take a look at something that is called a pin check, and the pin check is something that becomes more common for every tournament that we do play, because it's a different way of using the plus yardage, but we do always need to have some sort of a target when we're using the plus yardage. As in the first example, we used the target method of having the adjustment and this, you know, the landing position and spin setup, and then we read off the plus yardage. Now we are going to look for the target directly before we set up spin and landing position, and that is, you know, I would say the difference by using a pin check, or in that case the regular one that we just did before. This could be a bit tricky, and you need to be quick when you do it, because we do not want to spend the 10-15 seconds just by finding them, you know, finding the pin and reading off the plus yardage. So you, like, when it's your turn, then directly you go up and finding the spot that you're looking for. So we're gonna take a look at the video first and foremost again. You can see here that we play with a falcon. What I do is that I move up my bullseye to the pin, and you see there that I got the yardage +4. Might went pretty quick. We take it again. You see here, I take my target, I go up towards the pin with the bullseye, and I have +4. Okay, so that is important to have in mind, because now I'm going back to the spot that I'm actually are about to aim at. And you can see here that we are obviously away from plus yardage. We're not even into plus yardage, and that's why it was important for us to get that plus yardage check by the pin, so we then can equal that to a slider percentage and make sure that we're not gonna miss the rough. Because if we would be just guessing here, I can bet my right arm at the fact that we would miss the rough more time than not, because again, we don't have a reference. But using the pin check, we give ourselves a reference that we then can follow, and we then know what to adjust, and we will in that case give ourselves a much better effect on hitting the rough, and in this case also getting this ball to drop in a lovely way. So this rough bump were tough, but the pin check reference helps us once again to feel more confident and make sure that we're not going to make a mistake, and also it becomes a better percentage drop, so to speak. So +4, have that in mind once again, because that's the only thing that we're looking at now. So we're gonna take that in a bigger picture. You can see here now that we do have the bullseye by the pin. You can mixture and do many different type of pin check. You can use the top of the white ring, you can use the blue ring, you can use the transparent ring, whatever. You can use whatever pin check you would like, because in the end you can use the same type of method. It's just a different target that you're looking at. The beauty with the pin check, though, is that when we're using, sorry, not the beauty with the pin check, but beauty with using the bullseye to do the pin check, is that you then don't have to be worried about using a different club. By using the bullseye by the pin, we can then use the thorn, we can use the hornet, we can use the falcon, and even though they have different stats and could be in different levels, is going to work somewhat the same. The only thing that you're going to have to be aware of, though, is the power. If the club that you are, let's say that you're going to follow something that I do. Let's say that I use a club that has 90 in power. If you then do play with a club that has 88 in power. If I then have a bullseye pin check with +4, then you would be, if so, having a +6 because you have 2 yards less power and would in that case be further up. So it would be in that case important to have in mind what power you have. Obviously, this is listed on the guides when it comes to the plus yardage and the slider percentage that it equals. And we do try to list the different type of levels. But when you're trying to build your own tables, that is something that is important to have in mind, because again, if you play from +4 with the same slider as you in that case would do when you have +6, you're going to miss. That's just how it's going to work. Let's take a look at a table here. We see the Falcon pinches, and have in mind though that we played it from +4, and here we have a nice difference when it comes to Falcon 6 and 7, which has the same power, and when we do have the Falcon level 8, which has 2 yards extra power. So there you can see that the +4 yards of Falcon 6 and 7 plays with more percentage than the Falcon 8, once again due to the less power on that club. So in this scenario, we played 89% slider with the +4 yard mark as a reference. And if we would be playing with Falcon level 8, we once again would be playing with 86% slider instead of the 89. So this is how you work out, and you use the pin check instead. Again, you can use so many different type of references in this game that will in the end equal towards a slider percentage, and we always try to be as detailed as possible in explaining what we want you to do, but we're also trying to do it as simplified as possible so we don't run out of time, because we could be the best players in the world, but if we don't have the time to take our shot, then it doesn't really matter. So again, 2 different ways of using plus yardage. And again, if you do have any questions about this method that is called plus yardage tables, then please reach out to us in a message on Patreon or through support at golfclashtommy.com. Once again, thank you so much for your support, and good luck in your Golf Clash game.